Welcome to Carter's Country Club. This is episode one, A Call to Right Action, part nine. Okay, so I totally chose to change the music up a little bit because I need a little energy, maybe you need a little energy. And I'm pretty excited about this next part, this next section, as we get into a little bit of swimming, which is one of my passions. And I wanted to take a moment to kind of talk to you a little bit here because I have mentioned a few things in previous sections about how I came to be a swim coach and also just my background in swimming in general. I've kind of sprinkled throughout this. So, again, I haven't made this disclaimer in a couple of sections, but just in case you happen to be one of my swimmers, this is not a video for you, right? This is not for any of my kids in gymnastics. This is not for you. So go ahead and leave. You do a very good job of listening to me. I need you to listen to me right now. This is not for you. With that said, this is probably for you if you're not somebody who is in my life and you're here and you've already listened to me talk for a really long time. But yes, so I grew up swimming. My grandmother had actually taken my mom to swim because my grandmother didn't know how to swim. Like I said, my grandfather was in the Navy, so he was really passionate about his kids knowing how to swim. So my mom knew how to swim enough to, quote, save her life. But she wanted to make sure I was a good swimmer. And so I don't remember learning how to swim. I do remember the first time I swam 25 meters. Pretty sure it was a metered pool because this was at Mission Bay, which is in Boca Raton, Florida. Don't know that it's still there, but that's where Greg Louganis trained, who, was a pretty infamous diver in the 80s. And so I lived in South Florida at the time. And so when I was four, or somewhere between 4 and 5, I guess I probably would have been, yeah, maybe the summer between 4 and 5. I was taking swim lessons and swam a 25 for the first time, and I got to have this pink iced animal cracker that my mother never would have let me have. And so I was pretty motivated to swim in order to do that. But I don't, breaststroke was very intuitive for me when after my parents got divorced and we moved quite a few times, which is a conversation for another time. But my mom brought me back to Bowling Green, Kentucky, where I was born, and her friends were here. And I joined a summer swim team, and that's where I learned to swim butterfly, which I did not like, and I was a very reluctant butterflyer. I'm still a pretty reluctant butterflyer. Um, but I swam summer league for many years, and then I swam for a USA program called Greater Bowling Green, which no longer exists. Now, all of these programs here in Bowling Green were absorbed under Southern Kentucky Swim Club, which I actually coached a little bit for a period of time before I went out to the current club that I teach at. But when I was a freshman in high school, I went to swim practice and I was being pretty disrespectful of the coach. And if I'm being totally frank, because I'm going to be, because I'm doing my best to be honest here, I had had quite a bit of cannabis, and my friend and I, or as I'd said at the time, right, we'd smoked a bunch of weed and we went to practice, and I put on fins, which my coach at the time didn't let us do. And I was like dolphin kicking, through the pool. And, and so hence why this is not appropriate for my kids, right? And so I get out of the pool and like my coach Mitch is like who's still my old coach, right? I'll be 43 this year. He's still coaching high school swim. He coaches for another school now. There's courts in the background. So, but anyway, so he tells he like I get out of the pool and he's like, "You're done." And I don't know if he knew I was high or if like what was going on, but he's like, "You're done." I was like, "Oh, great. Like I get to go home. Like I'm done." And he's like, "No, you're done. Like you're done. Like you're burnt out. Like you're done swimming. And maybe that's what he meant. Maybe that's not what he didn't mean. Again, like I'm fueled by cannabinoids. So that's what I heard. And so I left swimming and didn't look back. Cut to many, many years later, I'm living in Los Angeles and I was teaching group fitness, but I was always looking for like other gigs and other things to do, right? It's LA. So, you're always looking for what's next, what's next. And so I took a job running a summer program at the Brentwood Country Club. And this was really glorified babysitting, and I did some swim lessons. But that was my only like swim coaching experience. I had done my lifeguard training in high school, but I never worked as a lifeguard. And so, really, I was tired of swimming. I didn't want to swim every once in a while because I worked at these clubs. Like, I'd go swim laps for fun, or I'd kind of like get in there and, play with some things. But I didn't really want to swim. And then, like I've mentioned in the previous videos, Carter was floating between Justin and I in the gorge. This life jacket flipped him on his face. He flipped out. And from that point on, like we couldn't get him in the water. And Justin loves lakes and rivers and creeks. I don't. I'm like an ocean girl, right? I said, like, I learned to swim in Boca Raton, Florida. I've spent a large part of my life in Florida. And then I lived in California for um, 11 years. I don't know, long time, you know, Southern California. So I love the ocean. Like I said, I went down to Maine Coeur, Peru, which like surfing's big there. Spent a lot of time in the ocean. I'm really big in the ocean, but like not lake, rivers, and creeks. Like I'm like pool and ocean. And so Justin like definitely challenges me to, get into bodies of water. So when we're in the gorge, we're doing these things. Carter loved to play in the sand, as I mentioned. He liked the good sand. And but he like we couldn't take him very far into the water. So again, 2020 hits, no pools are open. Right? Like Kentucky just shut down aquatics, which crushed aquatics, and that's a whole other story for another time. But there was this so Louisville across the river in Indiana is a public lake called Deem Lake, and Deem Lake was open, right? And it's like very eclectic people that are in Deem Lake. So we took Carter to Deem Lake all the time because we didn't have anything to do, right? It was COVID. I was, like I said, I was waiting tables at a barbecue restaurant because that's what I did. Justin's working at the gun shop. And so we would take Carter when we could to Deem Lake, and he like wouldn't even let us like take him out in the water. We couldn't even hold him. He was so, flipped out from this experience in the gorge. So as I'm trying to look for other work, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had only waited tables when we worked in the Red River Gorge at like our friend's restaurant because it was fun, and like I'd been a hostess in high school. Like I had not served, right? I had not waited tables. So I didn't want to be doing this, although again, I it was a valuable experience for me. So I was looking for other bits of work, and I was also looking for a swim team because I wanted to get Carter exposed to that because that's what I knew, right? I was like, okay, he needs swim lessons, he needs a swim team. Like this is how, he's gonna find his way. And so I reach out to this club and they're like, well, we'll have a swim team if we can find another coach. But the pool doesn't even know if they can have enough lifeguards to open, right? So that's another conversation. Kentucky decimated aquatics by also making these stupid rules about the number of lifeguards, which has since changed. But anyway, aquatics has been hit very hard. Again, governing bodies are not our friends. So, this club never didn't reopen for a couple years. But anyway, this team hired me as an assistant coach. I said, okay, well, I have this strength and conditioning background, I have this movement background, but and I grew up as a swimmer, and I used to be a lifeguard, but I haven't done anything in a long time. But I'm happy to help. Can my son be with me? And can I not wear a mask? Great. Okay. I don't have to wear a mask. My son can be with me, and I'm down to help. And so a lot happened during that time. But I definitely fell in love with swimming. It was a great environment for Carter. He didn't really do much with that first swim team. He was four, right? So, again, I could swim when I was four. So I'm like, here, Carter, you can swim too. And so he just like kicked with a kickboard, and I worked with the kids. I got to be kind of mentored by this YMCA swim coach, fell in love with these kids, but I also had to watch these kids get the vaccine. Not everybody, but I got to see kids come in, and I remember specifically like one teenage boy, right? Because the like older kids got the vaccine and then they kept doing it, and I didn't say anything, and so now I'm here to say something, right? But I didn't say anything other than this dad comes to me and he's like, oh, he got the COVID vaccine today. He doesn't seem to be feeling well, but, he should come to practice. And I'm like, I'm like, myocarditis. He's going to have like this experience in the water. And I'm like, hey, dude, like, you're good. Like, you can chill. Like, you don't have to swim. Like, I know what your dad said, but like you're good. And I'm like looking at the dad like he's crazy. But anyway, I have multiple things over the years. So that's how I came back to swimming, and why, you know, it was valuable for me. And then at the end of that summer league, they had me stay on and manage the lifeguards, which I absolutely will never do again. Like managing teenagers is not my jam. But I did it because, again, there was nobody there to do it. And then Carter got to keep swimming. And, this place was open. We could, be normal where, that wasn't happening in a lot of other places. So when I did my lifeguard cert, this gentleman told me about another club and he said, you should go and check that out. And they have the best swim lessons. That would be great for your son. So I go and I try to take Carter to the swim lesson and he like won't even get in the pool. Like he's like, no. He's like got a swim cap, he's got his little jammers on and everything, and he's like not gonna get in the pool with the coach, who I absolutely adore, that I think is awesome, and Carter does too now, but he wouldn't get in. And so the guy was like, okay, well, there's nothing we can really do with your son, but do you want a job? And so from that point on, for the next couple of years, I would spend almost 7 days a week in the water with kids. And I have seen a lot in those years. And I wouldn't have kept doing this if I didn't love the kids. But I am doing my best now to figure out how to step into this digital space so that I can help more people, not just the small population that I work with. Okay, but I want to continue on with the presentation because I could talk about this stuff all day. But that's what I'm saying. This is important part, and this is really where Carter's Country Club comes from, right? Is this love of water, this love of swimming, all of the things, right? So, yeah, I'm going to keep moving forward. As I mentioned in the previous part 8, this is now part 9, which is crazy. But this is Zuma, and I often tell kids Zuma is not coming. We expect to self rescue. And maybe this is what you think of as an infant self rescuing. And I get a lot of comments, a lot, about people looking for infant swim and infant survival. And there are lots of programs out there, but I'm going to be really, really frank with you. There are children that have died in some of these ISSR programs. Now, one of Carter's very good friends did ISSR. I grew up with a woman locally who teaches it. I think she's lovely, but it's not necessarily my approach. I do think it's super valuable that your child must float on his back, and the earlier you start that, the better. So I am an advocate for 4 months of age, getting him in the water. The sooner we can get him to float, the better. And I had to learn how to hold Carter properly because I was really awkward with him. I was holding him like a serving platter. So yeah, so super important, but you need to know what you're doing. And back to the fact that children have died, I'm going to be really honest. The most recent one I heard about, the like a parent was on the deck. So I'm sorry. I teach and work with children with special needs. Carter and I have an incredible love for our friends with Down syndrome and children with Down syndrome. My mom taught me that children with Down syndrome are like angels, and I love them so much. I never use the word retarded with them. I only use the word retarded with regular people that are being stupid, and allowing your child to die in front of you because you are trusting a professional is absolutely absurd. And it's happened. The children, have taken so much water that they're vomiting. So, not cool. And there's definitely a better way to do that. I can support infants. I have a new series that's starting on Tuesday, and I get to see this little dude that I've had in the water since he was 4 months old. He's two now, and I'm super stoked because he's going to like really be able to swim. Well, not really swim because he's two, but he can. I'm excited to see his progress. Okay. So, you can see in this picture that Carter did not want to be swimming. Okay. So, the first team that I coached is the Sea Dragons, the Tom Sawyer Sea Dragons. Now I coach the Allen County Scottsville Sea Dragons, which is kind of serendipitous. But this was at championships, Carter's first championships that he did not get to participate in. So he had been in the sun all day, not happy. The rest of the kids were swimming at championships, they were having a ball. Carter was not. So the next year, Carter went to championships. Yep. So he went from a kid that didn't want to swim, kicking with a kickboard, to going to championships in Louisville in a very large league. He was one of 68 six and unders. He's 5 years old at the time. Justin thinks like this, like the Michael Phelps photo. And the coach in the background is one of my favorite coaches, and he has like what I call like classic old school autism that just makes him awesome. He's fantastic. His brain is fantastic. I ran into him the other day and he like was just on it. Like so different than sometimes what I see with kids nowadays. Not that I like I said, I love working with people with autism because I resonate with them. I think that the 11 vaccines that I had did injure me. And so I find myself relating to people with autism sometimes more than individuals that don't have it. But it's been a journey for Carter. So he took a long time to go off these blocks, right? So it was a lot of jumping. Look at him doggy paddling there. Oh my goodness gracious. I teach children, no doggy paddling. And look how long that took him to get to the wall. If he had just put his head down and swam under, he would have gotten there much faster. This is our old club inside the bubble. And then this is the next season, which Carter's back in that same bubble, but he's competing for himself. And
Go Carter
there's me being very loud. Sorry
Bright!
about that. Look at this little underwater dolphin. He doesn't use his snorkel, but his start is fantastic. So, very reluctant swimmer, still doesn't really want to swim, but he's broken some records. He's done some pretty awesome things. I really wanted him to break, like, there's a really old record for eight and under boys for a long course, 50-meter breaststroke. There's like an old record that's held since I think like the 60s. And I really, because he's such a good breaststroker, really wanted him to like want to train and break it, but he doesn't want to train. He likes to train in ballet, he likes to train in many other things, but not swimming. So he swims because he he likes the team, he likes the kids on the team, and he also swims because I make it kind of a non-negotiable that he needs to do that a little bit for his fitness. Not very much, but he participates. He loves to race, like he'll jump into any race for the most part. And then these images on the right are from a kids triathlon that he did last at the end of the summer. He had a pretty fun time with that. He's definitely likes the biking and the running far more than the swimming though. But they just had to swim a 50, so he would have done far better had he gotten to swim a longer distance. So yes, Carter has he's done a season of indoor, outdoor track and field, and then a season of cross country. He took off pretty much this whole winter, didn't do indoor track, and I don't know whether he's going to do outdoor at all. But he is a beast. And He like endurance wise, he's not super fast, but he likes to run. And we noticed when he was little that he kind of ran a little funny. And so that's why I brought him to Coach Alexis and to the track program because I wanted him to be a decent runner. Not that he has to like compete in running, although he's liked doing that. But I really just wanted him to learn how to run and I wanted him to run well. I ran cross country. I only trained a little bit in track, but I love running trails. Definitely fun. Okay, so back to musicals. Carter loves the sound of music, and that's why I had to put these lyrics here because I think it's just it is a really beautiful musical, and I mean we could talk about the bit of propaganda in it and Nazism and all that kind of stuff, but old Rogers and Hammerstein, pretty lovely. And one of Carter's goals is to get to play one of the Von Trapp children in a big production of The Sound of Music. So these images are from the Manitou Incline. And so in September of 2020, like I said, when people were not traveling, we did choose to travel, right? So we thought we were going to move to Colorado. We had been to Colorado pre-pandemic. I had lived in Colorado before. I had lived in North Boulder and Denver and Colorado Springs. And so I was like, I thought, okay, like this is the place for us. But not only would some of our friends there not see us because they were scared about COVID, but we had the craziest experiences when we were there, and I think I have some other images of that going forward. But yeah, we it was only a couple days before we're like, there's no way, these people are way too crazy with COVID. And again, this was September of 2020. We were like, there's no way. But I share these images and I share all this is included because it's to show how capable children are, right? Carter did the Manitou Incline. It was right before his fourth birthday. And, as the steps got bigger, you can see that Justin's holding his hand there, but he had his little backpack with his little snacks on, did that on his own because he grew up on those approach trails. And also during COVID, he just rode his bike everywhere, right? And then he raced BMX during COVID. So, because BMX was pretty open, I think maybe they were better than climbers and skateboarders and stuff. Maybe they were really kind of being a little bit more anti-establishment. I don't want to call out any BMXers because I'm sure there's some that were silly with maskiness, but for the most part. So yes, love the sound of music, love elements of Colorado, but sometimes people are too crazy. And yes, Carter is amazing at people were like cheering him on. It was like so cute. But Carter loves bikes. And so he's done this race, the Highlander, where he's ran and then did a mountain bike race back to back for the last 2 years. He loves it. The first year, this is how clueless I am about bikes. I thought it was like no big deal to just have him on his little single speed. And he did it. Like he did the race and did the second lap with his like single speed bike. It was pretty crazy. He did have to walk it a little bit. So the next year he had a much better bike. But the way that Carter got to be that amazing on a bike, as I've mentioned, was his love of the balance bike and that I took him to skate parks when he was, 18 months old. But we also had one of the steepest BMX tracks in the country in Louisville, which I didn't even know about. My mom was like, "Hey, have you taken Carter over there?" So here's Carter on that same, I think that's that same little pink balance bike. Yep. And look at him. He's just jamming out. Oh, he's got to work though. Oof. Gotta walk that one. Walk that hill on the balance bike.
I did.
He
Good
did.
job, dude.
So many, many, many hours. Many hours of this. So to be who we are and become what, to be who you are and become what you are capable of is the only goal worth living. And that's Mr. Alvin Ailey. And that's Carter. back in September of 2020, riding his BMX bike on a just totally open track. We ran, he rode two courses while we were out in Colorado, and it was pretty cool. And he and Justin built that bike during COVID. It's a BMX Micro Mini, and they had to like get little cranks for him and all of that. So I think I should probably end it here. I forgot to set my timer to see how long I've been talking, but I'm going to kind of guess that it's been long enough that I should close it out so I can keep the quality of the video high as I'm recording in Keynote. But I love the Alvin Ailey quote, and if you have never seen Alvin Ailey, the company, or you know, you should. And I don't know if Carter would ever be so bold as to be able to go do one of Alvin Ailey's summer programs, because he would definitely be a minority there. I've had experiences in my life where I've gotten to be the minority, and I think it's kind of enjoyable. So I hope that he would, because I think they have a really cool curriculum. And I think it's probably kind of funny that I'm using a dancer quote for BMX, but that's who I am. So yeah, so I'm going to see you in the next episode. My whole intention in creating this presentation was for everybody to see that, while I think my son is magical, it's really the result of the environment that I have created around him. Not just me, but his whole family, right? His father, the grandparents, everybody, like our whole community has created around him. But also that I let him lead. I wouldn't have known anything about bikes. I knew because my older sister, her son had had a balance bike. I knew that balance bikes were valuable, and I knew about skateboarding. So I took him to skateparks. But I had no clue. I felt like BMX had died out in the 80s. So I knew nothing about it. And he doesn't race BMX anymore because we don't have a track here. But he has definitely been out with his friends today, riding his bike. So thanks for listening. Again, I feel you. If you're still listening, we're on the same page. So reach out. Carter's Country Club is for you. If you're here at this point, it definitely is. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.